government school. If you look at that child who goes to private school, he gets other privileges. He doesn't have to take the cow out in the morning. He gets to do homework. So he's getting more advantages than just going to private school. So even this difference that we see, the small difference, is actually bigger than the difference, the real true difference. The true difference has to be smaller than that because these guys are clearly getting additional advantages. So there's a nice study again in Hyderabad, which now basically gives children vouchers to go to private school. And it looks at what happens to their learning level. So what happens when you get vouchers, in Hyderabad at least, is you send your child to an English medium private school. As a result, two things happen. One is you learn a little bit more English, but not nobody in these private schools where the poor go are learning a lot of English. On the other hand, your Telugu gets worse and your math gets worse. So overall, not much changes. And that's sort of consistent with everything I've said. We don't see big differences. So now let me pose the question. Let's keep going. Keep going. Yeah. Keep going. I want to explain all this. So here's what I think the big puzzle. The big puzzle is private schools have all the incentives. The parents are motivated. The teachers are paid to be motivated. So why aren't? And yet we see no differences. On the other hand, it's not impossible to make improvements. I just spent a long time talking about the fact that it's easy to make improvements. Even government school teachers in Bihar can make large improvements. So why aren't these private schools adopting those techniques and making large improvements? You see what the problem is. If we think that the private schools have all the incentives and the parents who send children to private schools have very strong incentives, then why, and it is easy to make improvements, then why aren't those improvements being made in these private schools? That's a core puzzle. So let me start to unravel that puzzle. Because I think if we don't understand the puzzle, I don't think we'll understand what's going wrong in the system. Okay. So the first part of the answer I've already suggested, which is that a big part of what's going wrong in schools is that the fact that the focus is on teaching the syllabus and not teaching children. That's completely, I think, evident from everything you, if you go to a school, you'll see that. Teachers are not particularly interested in children. We once did a study of how many children does a teacher look at during a day, and the answer is 3. So teachers are not interested in children, they're interested in syllabus. So, and they tell you that. If you tell them, why aren't you doing this other thing, Pratham has these nice materials, why don't you use this material to improve? We did this in Uttarakhand. I spent a lot of time in schools in Uttarakhand. They said, time nahi hai. Syllabus khatam karna hai. So, I think there's a very clear, I don't think this is controversial. It's what it is. The interesting question to me is why aren't we up in arms about it? Why are private school teachers, why do parents who spend money to send their children to private school going along with this? Why aren't they saying, my child is not learning. Why aren't you doing something about it? And I think here, this is where the core of the problem is. The core of the problem is that our entire education system is designed as a colonial education system. A colonial education system in the sense that our system, the education system that was bequeathed to us by the British, was an education system where the priority of the system was to choose an elite who could be educated. The rest, it was assumed, will not be educated, or will be educated in some other system. The entire focus of the system was in getting through high school, then you got a job. That was the entire focus of the system. I think we are still designing systems. Everybody's expectation from the education system is that, which is that education systems, the only gain from education is the gain of getting a job. Now, let's step back from that for a second. Notice almost no one out of 10 of these children will actually get through this class 12 exam. Rest of them are going to drop out. So this is a long shot. So everybody who's going into a system who believes that must therefore believe it's a long shot. That, you know, what we are looking for is some uniquely talented children who can overcome all the handicap and get through. So education is a lottery. You enter the lottery. If your child happens to be uniquely gifted, maybe he gets through, otherwise he's going to drop out. Now, the truth is, education is good, benefits everyone. The gain from going from class 6 to class 8 is smaller than the gain from going from class 12 to college, but not that much smaller. Basically, a year of education is roughly the same gain. Maybe a little smaller, a little bigger, but there's not huge differences there. The huge differences are between people who've never got education and people who got a lot of education. How many years? So even if you stop at class 6, you do much better in terms of earnings than if you stopped in class 3. So it's not the case that education, as a point of fact, education is not winner take all. But everybody believes it's winner take all. So let's start with that hypothesis. That in our system, because of our colonial heritage, we believe, everyone in the system, teachers believe, parents believe, and eventually children believe that it's winner take all. So what would happen in this world? One thing that would happen in this world is parents will discriminate among children. So this if you work with in education in India, you see this all the time. You go to a family and you ask, you know, are your children going to school? And the parent will smilingly point to one of their children and say, oh, ye to buddhu hai, so he's not, I'm sending him to government school. Uske dimag hai. So she's going to government. And it's often the she. This is even in Pakistan is true. That the discrimination is much more based on parents' theories of what the child is capable of than even gender. This is a very nice one in Pakistan where they ask parents, why are you sending this child to private school and that child to government school? The answer is, this child is smarter. So parents essentialize children. They decide that this child has capacity, this child doesn't. Whereas, of course, all children have the capacity to learn. But I think parents, because they believe that the goal is not to learn a little, but to get through this whole system, and the system is then rigged to react to that. So the system is also, if everybody's expectation is that all that matters is going to class 12, then teaching the syllabus makes sense, because you really need to catch up with all those girls who are going to cathedral. So you can't possibly just give up and kind of learn at your own pace. You have to learn at the given pace. Otherwise, it's hopeless, because you have to compete with those people. So since the whole system assumes that the only possible goal is to get through that exam, then it makes sense to teach the syllabus. The parents want you to teach the syllabus. If you ask parents, do you want them to teach the syllabus? They say yes. Why? Because we want our children to be able to get through that exam. Rather than, we want our children to learn something while they are in school, and that might be useful for them. So those are very different views of the world. And given the current system, everybody might be rational in believing that. So everybody, given that it's hopeless to get, unless you are exceptionally tenacious and gifted, if you are from a poor family, it's very, very hard to get through the system. Therefore, you might as well sort of assume that it's hopeless for you, and only smart people can get through, and then the teachers also believe that, and therefore they deliver exactly that. So everybody is in agreement in this system that this is the goal. Parents in agreement, children buy into that, and it's no surprise you get told every year, the whole system is constantly telling you that you can't read. We are teaching you social studies. Notice you can't read. So you get reinforced all that time. Every day you go to school, you realize that you are inadequate. Because after all, nobody's telling you that, look, it's my fault as a teacher that you can't read. It's your presumption is it's your fault. So everybody is getting this idea that there is really two classes of people who can and people who cannot, and the education is for the people who can. So why does education remain? So this, once you buy this theory, then lots of things fall into place. Why does remedial education always work or whatever? If you teach children where, let's not call it remedial, just teaching children where they are, why does it work? Well, children, it's not that children are stupid. This whole system doesn't teach them. That doesn't mean they can't learn, it just means they're not being taught. That's why they learn very fast when you teach them. Why does tracking work? We talked about this, but it's a nice experiment in Kenya where what they do is they split the class. Split the class, this is some controversial in many countries, including Kenya. They split the class by levels. So the better performing children go to one class, one section, and the worst performing children go to the other section. They find that when this happens, both sections, everyone does better. The best children do better, the medium children do better, the worst children do better. Why? Because remember, the teacher's teaching to the top of the class. The teachers only teach the top of the class. So you bring the top of the class closer to the bottom of the class, then the bottom of the class does a bit better, because the bottom of the class is very far away from the top of the class, then he gets nothing out of it. Why does summer school work? Well, summer school works for the obvious reason. In summer school, the instruction to the teacher was teach the children what they don't know. It's no mystery there. If you tell the teacher to teach, teachers are even in the government system are not monsters. They're just told what to do. What they're told to do is to teach the syllabus. If they're told teach the child what he doesn't know, then they do, and the children learn. Why do textbooks only work for best children? Because they're written for best children. There's no mystery there. The textbooks are only meant for the best children. Why don't private schools do better? Private schools are trying to do the same thing. They're also trying to achieve the class 12 exam success. So they're doing better. If you think of what the metric is, they're doing fine. Their goal and the expectation is not that when you go to private school, you are going to learn something useful for life and then eventually drop out of class 8. The expectation is that you will either drop out, and then it doesn't matter. Let's go back for a second. I'll just stop and say one more thing. Another fact: why doesn't it help to have more teachers per child? Very simple. The teacher is only looking at the top 3 children. Doesn't matter if 77 of them are sitting at the back or 17 are sitting at the back. They're completely irrelevant. Only the top 3 children matter. Teachers are told that those are the only worthwhile children. The rest of them are hopeless in any case. They're never going to get to the class 12 exam, so why bother? So then everything falls into place. You cannot change teaching by changing the teacher-student ratio, because the teachers still focused on teaching the syllabus. So let me just finish by talking a little bit about what is to be done. I think the first order fact is to get out of. So I think if you believe my theory, then there's something very straightforward to be done, which is you have to change the attitude of the system. Everybody in the system has to buy into the idea that learning at all levels is valuable, and that the goal of the proximate goal of the system has to be that every child is learning. There's no mystery there, and I know, but I think the system is resolutely committed to a different view. It also means that there are lots of effort going on. Lots of organizations are trying to do that. This is not a new idea, but I think it's an idea that once you articulate it, you see how well it fits with the whole picture. One other thing that's striking in India, and if you look at this is not from a randomized control trial. It's just comparing if you look at schools where there's one teacher who teaches multiple classes, which is 60% of schools in India, those places where there are no multi-grade teaching. You would think that schools which have no multi-grade teaching, children should do better. Why? Because they are getting, from class 5, I have a class 5 teacher. This multi-grade teacher means a class 5 teacher is teaching class 3, 4 and 5. In fact, if you look at the raw correlation, it's the opposite. Multi-grade schools, children in multi-grade schools do better. Why do they do better? Because multi-grade schools, the fact that I'm class 5 means nothing, right? I have not learned anything. Now, at least if I'm with a class 2 child, I can pick up what she is learning. Because remember, the whole system works on the assumption that if I'm class 5, I know class 5 material, even if it's not true. So if multi-grade teaching helps, precisely because it allows me, who is in 5th grade, but I can't read, to learn reading, because there is a class 2 child next to me. Now, what that means is flexibility in the system is very important. We need to sort of break up this idea that a class is a class is a class. Some people might be good at math, but not good at language. We have this system by which, if you're class 5, our presumption is you're good at everything. We need to break that up. We need to allow children to be where they are. So if you are in 2nd grade in math and 5th grade in English or in Marathi, then you study Marathi with 5th graders and math with 2nd graders. So we need to break the structure of the year, because that's absolutely sort of, that creates this log frame, which makes it impossible to then give any flexibility to the system. Another thing that I think will help, and there's some evidence that I didn't show it, but there's a lot, is giving children more proximate goals. So you tell them that the only goal that matters is whether you can go through the class 12 exam. That's a very long way. If you're 7 years old and you know that, look, all of this will pay off. You just wait 19 years. It just doesn't work. You get through your MBA and it'll all pay off. So I think you need to create more proximate goals. You need to create some rewards for children who are doing a little bit better, give them incentives, give them some rewards to feel that they are part of the system. It's not just that the few children who are going to get through that whole, get their MBA who are going to get the benefits. Everybody's going to get some benefits. I think that's going to change the mindset in the system. And there's lots of evidence showing that. I didn't talk about it, but I think there is lots of evidence. Another thing that's, I think, very important is I think teachers also need these proximate goals. I think it is also for teachers, it's frustrating when you are in a school where most children are going to drop out. You also need to give teachers some way of getting some recognition. Now, one of the things that says is that we need testing. One of the things we've just done is abolished all testing, all public exams till class 12. This is exactly what you shouldn't do in my view. Why? Because I think the argument for abolishing testing has always been that testing hurts the children. And that might even be true, that children, I think I've seen many parents, and when you tell them that your child can't read, their first reaction is not, let me teach him, but let me slap him. So it's certainly true that there is that. But I think that I don't know why there needs to be such a close tie between the child's performance and the teacher's performance. So it does not need to be that the child doesn't need to be told what his performance is in order to tell the teacher that your average performance is low. Those are separate things. And in the US, many states don't report child-specific scores. They just report teacher-specific scores. So the important thing is that teachers need to be told what they're doing right and wrong. And the entire system is sort of designed to now take that information out. So now no longer, there's no public information anymore, no objectively provided information on how the teachers are doing. So this is a result of our right to information law. So we have just taken away the one lever we could have had to provide teachers with both a sense of where they are succeeding and where they're failing, and maybe some more incentives based on things that matter, not just passing through the class 12 exam. Parental perceptions, if you buy my theory, then parental perceptions are very important. And there's a very nice set of experiments on this. One of them is in India. There was an experiment, Rob Jensen did an experiment around Delhi, where he went around to villages near Gurgaon and told parents, there are jobs in call centers if your girls can graduate from high school or get through class 10 or something. And that generated large gains in test scores, and not just in test scores, it's really sad, it generated gains in height. Parents started feeding their daughters more. So this was so clearly parental perceptions matter. But in Madagascar, for example, this is a very cheap thing to do. Madagascar, all they did was they put up a chart saying, this is the income of somebody who completes class 4, this is the income of someone who completes class 8, this is the income of somebody who completes class 12, and it's like in a chart, a graphic, and they put it up in the villages. That generated very large gains, as large gains as many interventions. So I think part of this is parents need to believe that even class 4 has benefits. They tend to believe that only so. And the flip side of this fact is that parents way overestimate. In Madagascar, they asked them, what is your chance that your child, if they get through class 12, will get a government job? And there they thought it was 80%. In fact, it was about a third. So parents overestimate the benefits at the top and underestimate the benefits at the bottom. So you can gain from going from class 4 to class 8 is substantial, and the gain from class 4 to class 8 to class 12 is much less than they think. So in both sides there's an imbalance. So if you give parents the right information, they're going to actually and I think we want more creative use of information technology. And I can give another talk on this, but I'm kind of both running out of energy and you're running out of time. So I'm going to postpone that. So what did I say? Just summarize. I think there's no mystery on why we are doing badly. Let me say one minute about why we are doing worse. I don't know this, I can't prove it, but my guess is we are doing worse because we passed the right to education law. Now that we passed the right to education law, we're done. We've solved the problem of education. Therefore, all government officials have kind of wiped their hands and they're all sitting pretty. We have passed the education law. You see the decline. The decline happens instantly after the right to education law. The timing is beautiful in a sense. As soon as we pass the right to education law, it seems like the job is done. My sense is that what we need to do is reignite a sense of urgency. I think these results don't get us worried, that I don't know what can, since we've had a 20% decline in 2 years. This is stunning in a sense. So, but hopefully it will. But I think once we decide to act on it, where to act is simple. I don't think it's that hard to know where to act. That's not the problem we face. We know where to act. We just haven't figured out how to make that happen. And in some sense, we need to revisit this idea of what a right to education means and how to embed that better inside our broader thinking